It is interesting that the Lord picked the city of Cali, a city that was controlled and manipulated by illegal monies, by drug lords, by corruption. That would be the most unlikely city that you would pick, and yet God picked the city of Cali. And I believe that God did that purposefully to show the entire world and the leadership of the cities of this world that God can transform a community if the community repents.
The revival Julio prophesied before his death has begun. As his family celebrates the church's newfound unity and the throngs of people coming eagerly to Christ, they are comforted and honored to have played a part.
And we realized that God had entrusted to us the greatest thing that anybody could ever do, and that's give the very closest as a martyr for Jesus Christ. And we realized that put a big responsibility upon us as well, to exalt his name in this, because we knew that God was doing something greater.
With his death, it's like it encouraged us to want to do the same, to lay down our lives for the Lord and not just die for him, but to live for him. That can be harder than dying for him.
So you feel like some of that vision that your father had is living on through you?
It's
It's very much a part of us.
Julio used to say, I am immortal until I've done everything God has for me to do. And if you had asked Julio, if you could talk to him now and say, was it worth it? He would say yes, because that's where his heart was.
What everyone thought was impossible, what everyone thought was totally, virtually, humanly impossible, I bear witness before God and you this evening that nothing is impossible for God. Nothing is impossible for God.
I think God is doing something new, not only in the city of Cali, not only in the nation of Colombia, but all across the face of the earth today. If this is what the church has to look forward to in the years ahead, I want to be a part of it.
Kiambu was a town which had very bad history. In fact, it had the worst history in our country. The murder in terms of rape, violence, it was well known. This town was not growing. The churches were not growing. Because of the bad reputation of the town, nobody wanted to go.
By the late 1980s, this distressed suburb of Nairobi had become one of the most dangerous and oppressive places in Kenya. Bars and illicit stills outnumbered churches and grocery stores. Fueled by a river of alcohol, Kiambu's crime rate rose to worst in the nation. Nobody, especially women, dared venture out after dark. Civil servants routinely paid bribes to avoid assignments in Kiambu. Despite years of effort in this town of 65,000, no church had ever been able to grow beyond a few dozen members. As one weary pastor put it, we preach the gospel here, but the people don't get saved.
The Lord spoke to me and my wife back in 1988 and told us to come, that is Kiambu, and to plant a church.
Itinerant ministers Thomas and Margaret Muthi weren't exactly thrilled when God called them to the town of Kiambu. They knew church planting in this notorious ministry graveyard would not be easy. In fact, ministry colleagues in Nairobi thought the whole idea was crazy, and they didn't hesitate to say so. But the Muthis realized that to be successful, they would need to identify and confront the source of Kiambu's spiritual oppression.
You find the Bible saying in Ephesians 6:12, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities. So our problem was not the people in the town. Our problem was, what is the devil doing to the people? Why is he keeping them the way they are?
For 6 months, the Muthis committed themselves to fervent prayer and diligent research.
So we asked God, what's the root cause? We prayed, we fasted. The Lord showed us a spirit of witchcraft resting over the place.
They discovered that many of the things going on in Kiambu were linked to a powerful woman named Mama Jane, although she pretended to be a Christian and even called her divination house Emmanuel Clinic. Her business was pure witchcraft. Mama Jane's clientele included the town's top business and political leaders who came to have their fortunes told. Realizing that Kiambu was in the grip of powerful, evil forces, the Muthis began to press in to God.
And at the end of 6 months, we got an assurance in our spirits. The spiritual power over the town had been broken.
Seizing this window of opportunity, Thomas conducted his first outdoor crusade. By the end of the first week, more than 200 people had committed their hearts to Christ. Soon, healings and conversions were commonplace. When the municipal hall could no longer accommodate the crowds, Thomas moved his congregation into the basement of a nearby grocery store. Filled with round-the-clock intercession, it was promptly dubbed the Prayer Cave. Distressed by these developments, Mama Jane began to counterattack through targeted witchcraft. A thick oppression descended upon prayer and worship services. It remained until elders discovered Mama Jane's handiwork outside the church. Realizing they were dealing with demonic influences, the believers took authority over the situation.
Just raised up our hands one morning, and we prayed that she either gets saved or leaves town.
Within days, Mama Jane was stripped of her power. Within weeks, she packed up and left town.
Once this power of witchcraft, the principality that was over Kiambu, was broken, then the presence of God started to hover around the town.
The entire atmosphere changed. Where once people used to be afraid to go out at night, Kiambu now enjoys one of the lowest crime rates in the country. Local bars have been closed and remodeled into churches.
The town has flourished. We have seen actual change. And with the presence of God, of course, there comes a lot of changes. Favors, prosperity. That's what we are seeing today.
Now that Kiambu has a good name, people from Nairobi are flocking to get houses there. The population is up by 30%. There has also been a dramatic increase in the number of conversions. The Kiambu Prayer Cave, otherwise known as the Word of Faith Church, has expanded to more than 5,000 members. Not bad in the town where congregations previously averaged only 30 to 40 people.
We are seeing God do great things in this town. We are seeing lives changed. Criminals coming to Jesus, prostitutes, robbers, all kinds of people coming to Jesus.
As Thomas is quick to point out, the recipe for continued success must also include prayer.
Prayer is communicating with God. It's not simple. It's talking to God, who has the power to change situations. Now, there is so much prayer in this place that helps us. That way it helps us to not only maintain what we gave, but also to gain more ground.
Each day, more than 400 intercessors gather to pray. The routine begins at 6 a.m. They call it their morning glory. This is supplemented by Friday night prayer vigils and Wednesday evening gatherings called Operation Prayer Storm.
Prayer generates a power that is extraordinary. It's a power that transforms. I've seen it transform the city. If God can do it in Kiambu, he can do it anywhere in the world.